Hello, I'm Cameron, and today I'm going to talk about a thing. Eschatology is simply defined as concerns for the end of the world. It's a branch of theology studying death, judgment day, and the finality of all things from the world down to human life. For the average human, the end is scary. Regardless of whether it's religion or philosophy or science, humans have searched for a better understanding of what's to come at the end of life. We either find an answer that we can accept or accept that we can't find an answer. This anxiety about the end has fueled art, cinema, poetry, stories, music, and all kinds of other experiences. But people often avoid contemplating their own end. But I'm here to tell you that no one has to do it alone. And actually, I think under the right circumstances, it can be a powerful experience. So why am I talking about this? Well, for lack of a better segue, I love collecting vinyl records. It's a pastime I inherited from my dad. It helps me feel connected to him, and I like physical media. There's a certain permanence to paying a musician for packages containing their art pieces for you to then own forever. There's no subscription, no internet, no further payment required to enjoy these pieces of art. They are yours. Even if you lose electricity, you can always revert to an old hand-cranked style gramophone if you really wanted to listen to music. Or if you have such skills, make your own, of course. Nothing short of the apocalypse can get between you and listening to your music. Anyway, there is one album I have been dying to get my hands on for the longest time. And finally, the stars aligned. I was in the record store with Lauren, and I had the cash on hand, and there it was. This album I'm referring to is F sharp A sharp Infinity by the experimental rock group Godspeed You, Black Emperor. Confusing name, I know, but I love this record, and this band is one of my all-time favorites. And on it contains one of my favorite pieces of all time, the Dead Flag Blues. I say pieces because it's not a song in the traditional sense. It's more of a movement. This video is to describe how I think the Dead Flag Blues can be used as a meditation on Armageddon. To do this, I will be breaking down and interpreting the song from my point of view, and hopefully from that you can glean your own. Just to warn you again, this isn't necessarily traditional music. It's a vocalist ensemble, it's an orchestra piece, and it's more of an experience than anything. If you are going to end up listening, I recommend listening with good speakers or headphones, no distractions, and enough time to go from front to back. As a quick note, I'd like to say that the music you do hear in the background is not of the song. I won't be playing sections of the song, not only because of, copyright rules on YouTube, but also because I don't want to spoil any bit of the song for you. I want to challenge you to take a listen yourself. So, I hope that you will join me on this little journey and, with an open mind, let the music carry your thoughts, so to speak. Without further ado, let's get into it. The only spoken words in this entire song are from a narration at the beginning. The voice is not credited, it's from an anonymous reader, although there are theories as to the identity of the reader, but regardless, it's a tiny detail that allows us to put our own identity onto who the reader might be. The car is on fire, and there's no driver at the wheel, and the sewers are all muddied with 1,000 lonely suicides, and a dark wind blows. At first glance, this first lyric could be a description of a derelict city, a downtrodden town filled with death and chaos. To me, it reads as more of a mirror of larger concepts. More often than not these days, or maybe all days, it can feel like society is veering off the road, directionless, and as such, depression is rampant. Mental health takes its toll on millions of people daily. This leaves us feeling trapped, overcome by prevailing winds of dread and despair. The government is corrupt, and we're on so many drugs with the radio on and the curtains drawn. We're trapped in the belly of this horrible machine, and the machine is bleeding to death. Many of the ailments of modern man can be pinned on the actions of the state. The state is a universal concept, a concept that doesn't just affect Americans. And while depression and despair run rampant, profiteers sell us the solution in tiny orange bottles. Or if those don't work, we seek out our own solutions in the streets. Anything to ease our pain, right? All the while, we would rather drown out the outside world than face the music. And while this is happening, the vice grips of the system are closing in on us. We have no choice but to play the game. Every single person pays into this system in one way or another. And at the whims of powerful men, this system can be weaponized. However, they seem to be blind to the fact that this system that they've created is not sustainable. The sun has fallen down, and the billboards are all leering, and the flags are all dead at the top of their poles. Days continue to pass, but something looms on the horizon. The sins of man always come with a heavy toll, and if you take a peek outside, you can see our banners waving at us that remind us of our iniquities. The narration then suddenly takes a very vivid turn. The words start painting this stark visual tapestry for us to digest. It went like this. The buildings toppled in on themselves, mothers clutching babies, picked through the rubble and pulled out their hair. The skyline was beautiful on fire, all twisted metal stretching upwards, everything washed in a thin orange haze. I said, "Kiss me, you are beautiful, these are truly the last days." You grabbed my hand, and we fell into it, like a daydream or a fever. The words of this section speak for themselves. The song then slowly sways into its first movement. A lone guitar is tugging at our heartstrings as if it's lamenting on this new wasteland that's been created. Violins seem to veer down almost between notes as if the song is sobbing, and shrill arpeggios scrape by to highlight the horror show. We woke up one morning and fell a little further down. For sure, it's the Valley of Death. I open up my wallet, and it's full of blood. For as certain as the idea of death itself, there are people who hold responsibility for the hell that's unfolded. And this is the big reveal that the narrator leaves us with. Our ending was by our own hand. Then, almost as abruptly as they came, the strings die down. The brief silence is then filled by the fuzzy sound of a train leaving the station. It sounds almost like it's historic, like old archival recordings that have been preserved from a long-dead world. Then the song's second movement begins. Otherworldly tones begin to fill our ears, falling endlessly. This is a musical element called a shepherd scale. I can't help but imagine how I would feel if I was left behind to walk through the skeleton of our world. Anyone who would survive would be met with a world that is deadly silent. A world that's surrounded by the ghosts of what it once was, like old billboards and dead flags. You would be constantly reminded of what you had lost, and I can't help but imagine that the existential regret that you would feel like falling endlessly. Then the falling notes seem to morph into something that sounds more dissonant. It sets the hairs on the back of my neck on edge. It's like the sound of someone falling into madness. But then, just when it seems like there's no hope, out of the noise, you hear harmony. It evokes images of light in a tunnel, or the moon peeking past a cloud, or a sunbeam through the stained glass window of a cathedral. It sounds almost like hope or salvation. Then the song advances to its final movement. The guitar returns, humbly this time. It quietly strums a tune that sounds like it's from a western. At this point, it's almost like the tone is acceptance. This world that we live in is vast. Most of the things that happen in it are so far out of our control that it's extremely frightening. But at the same time, the fact that you cannot control these events is almost freeing. Whether you decide to put your trust in a higher power, or just relinquish your desire of control to an ever-moving universe, how the story ends is beyond us. At this point in time, the notes begin to speed up. The instruments begin to sing louder. It's like the whole song is standing up from ashes. This movement starts to give this sense of reinvigoration, of courage. All I could think was, although the mechanisms of this world are beyond us, we are in control of ourselves. We can make immediate changes in the here and the now. We can decide right now to live better, knowing that whatever happens, happens. Because as we all know, the end is inevitable. It's a universal constant for all of us. Then the song begins to slow back down. It allows our minds to pause and look back for a moment to think about the journey we've just taken. The song then closes with a playful-sounding motif with the violin, a slide guitar, and an instrument that I just learned the name of, a glockenspiel. The song is reminding us to smile. I think of the quote from the Greek philosopher Epicurus: "Death does not concern us, because as long as we exist, death is not here." So even when you start to feel the weight and the darkness of existence and the fate that we all have to face one day, just try for a very brief moment to smile and pause and look around. Take it all in as much as you can. The world around us is unfathomably beautiful. I can't even begin to describe with words all the beauty that you can find in the world just by taking a moment to look around and notice the small things and the big things. Although you and I won't be here forever, and the world won't be here forever, we're here right now. Thank you for watching.